Hey everyone, my name is David, and welcome to my presentation on agoraphobia and panic disorder. We're going to be going through just a brief overview of these two disorders and how they relate to one another, how prevalent they are in the world today, and what are just like the um, main featured symptoms for each, and some of the risks that go along with living with each of these diseases. So, without further ado, we can jump right into the first, which is agoraphobia. Now, a brief definition of this would be an anxiety disorder that is characterized by an intense fear or anxiety about being in a situation where escape might be difficult or embarrassing, or where help may not be available if a panic attack or other incapacitating symptom occurs. Um, there is a little note here that is important. I thought it was important, but it's that agoraphobia often coexists with panic disorder. So that's just an interesting differentiation between the two of them. But agoraphobia, as listed in the DSM-5, is code 300.22 F40.0. The symptoms are listed as including anxiety, panic attacks, sweating, rapid heart rate, and difficulty breathing. But there are some other symptoms that might include sweating or cold shivers, an unbearable feeling of helplessness, sudden tingling sensations in the arms or legs, pressure on the chest, lump in the throat, or shortness of breath, drowsiness up to the feeling of fainting, heart palpitations that are often associated with the thought that one is about to have a heart attack, panic attacks associated with an acute fear of death, and those affected have the feeling that they will die at any moment. But a little note to include here too also is that people with agoraphobia may experience various symptoms. It may be like they may have an overwhelming fear of anxiety in specific situations, such as crowded places, or like a specific location or setting, open spaces, being far away from home. People that suffer with this tend to avoid situations like this as they are afraid of being trapped or helpless. It can cause distress and interfere with daily activities, leading to a dependency on a companion or a reduced quality of life. But in the United States, the prevalence of agoraphobia is quite common. It's estimated that the prevalence is about 1.7% among adults. It's more common among women than it is men, and it's estimated that about 7 million Americans total suffer from it out of the roughly 330 million that are registered in the country. But according to the DSM-5, most cases of agoraphobia present before the age of 35. But sometimes there's an increase in the risk of developing agoraphobia in late adolescence and in early adulthood, because an overall average age at onset is actually 17. All right. And some of the risks that go along with this condition, agoraphobia itself is associated with significant distress and impairment in life. In severe cases, it can cause people to completely confine themselves to home, dependent on others for needs that require the leaving of their home. This can lead to self-medication without prescription medications or substance abuses. The DSM-5 also states that remission rates without treatment are low, with averages estimated about 10%. So roughly about 10% of those without treatment improve. This is something that tends to require some sort of attention or some sort of prognosis or treatment plan in order to see improvement. But agoraphobia is also associated with an increased risk of developing comorbid major depressive disorder, persistent depressive disorder, and substance abuse disorders. All right, so that is where I want to transition over to the topic of panic disorder. I'll touch back around to agoraphobia in a second because I found some stats that have to do with both of them. But yeah, now just moving on to panic disorder. Panic disorder is an anxiety disorder characterized by recurrent and unexpected panic attacks. The attacks are sudden surges of intense fear or discomfort that reach their peak within minutes. Panic disorder often coexists with agoraphobia, as individuals may develop fear and avoidance of situations that trigger panic attacks. Some of the common symptoms that come along with panic disorder. People that suffer with panic disorder experience various symptoms. They may have rapid heart rate, shortness of breath, trembling, sweating, and a sense of impending doom or fear of losing control. It's also potentially the fear of having additional panic attacks, and the consequences of these panic attacks can lead to significant distress and changes in behavior. That was one of the terrifying things about this disorder to me, because like this is you're getting anxiety about the potential of getting anxiety, or you're fearing facing your fear, or and I'm not trying to joke about it or anything, or try to make fun of anybody with this, but it's a terrifying thing to think of, being caught in a crippling fear about the risk of you becoming fearful. So I just, the empathy in my heart it's very real and very large, because this would be a terrifying thing to have a cognitive disposition that puts you prone to these kinds of attacks. But anyways, I'm digressing here. The prevalence of panic disorder, wait, I went a little too quickly. Other symptoms from panic disorder might include recurrent or unexpected panic attacks. At least one of the attacks has been followed by 1 month or more of one of the following: a persistent concern or worry about additional panic attacks or their consequences, or a significant maladaptive change in behavior related to the attacks. So something that is a negative alternative to something that you would normally do as a reaction to one of these attacks. Like if I was panicking and needed to get out of this coffee shop now as fast as I could, I might run to the door and throw it open and slam this door and like sandwich a young child between the door and the wall. A maladaptive behavior of which I would never have engaged without this kind of panic attack. So that's kind of also terrifying to think about. But a quick note is the disturbance is not due to the direct physiological effects of a substance, like drug abuse or medication, or general medical conditions. Prevalence. Panic disorder is relatively common in the United States, with an estimation between 2.7 and 5.7% of the population having it. Based on the diagnostic interview data from the National Comorbidity Survey replication, this figure in the bottom left shows past year prevalence of panic disorder among U.S. adults aged 18 or older. So overall, that they're on the bottom left, it's 2.7%, but that number for females compared to males was what caught my eye mainly, because it's close to double the amount of females that it affects rather than males above the ages of 18. But then further on, it kind of then breaks everything up into age groups, and it seems as though people are between the ages of 30 and 44 are those that are most commonly affected by this kind of disorder. But some of the risk factors that go along with a panic disorder, these factors may increase the risk of developing panic attacks or panic disorder. These risk factors are things like family history of panic attacks or disorder, major life stress such as the death of a serious death or serious illness of a loved one. Sometimes it's traumatic events such as sexual assault or serious accidents. major changes in your life, such as a divorce or the addition of a baby. Sometimes smoking or excessive caffeine intake can develop that, which is a terrifying notion as one that loves coffee. And history of childhood or physical sexual abuse, which is becoming more and more commonplace in the United States, which is very sad to say. But yeah, anyways, moving on to some of the complications that exist for those that currently suffer under it, have already developed the condition. But when left untreated, panic attacks and panic disorder can affect almost every area of an individual's life. They might be so afraid of having more panic attacks that they live in a constant state of fear, ruining their life or quality of life. Their complications might include the development of specific phobias, such as fear of driving or leaving home, frequent medical care for health concerns and other medical conditions. Sometimes they avoid social situations. There's problems at work and school, depression, increased risk of suicide or suicidal thoughts, alcohol or substance abuse, substance misuse, and financial problems. Now, switching back over to agoraphobia and kind of its relation to panic disorder, in 2018, the BMC Psychiatry Association or Corporation has published a study wherein they examined 296 patients that were suffering under panic disorder and or agoraphobia. And out of the 296 patients that they investigated, 72.6 of them were women. That's like roughly 215 of them were women. 44 roughly were men. But suicidal ideation was experienced by 25% of the respondents. And a logistics regression analysis, depression diagnosis and depression severity emerged as a significant risk factor for suicidal ideation. Anxiety measures were not associated with suicidal ideation. So this condition is very influential to, or it has a big impact on the disposition and overall quality of life of those that it affects, and it has a very terrifying grip on roughly 25% of those who suffer from panic disorder and agoraphobia. That's a terrifying thought. But anyways, I wanted to I did a little digging and kind of came up with some conclusions and kind of what I would like to call a societal prognosis for ways that we can help increase awareness and increase just a societal lack of ignorance when it comes to helping people out and spotting these in everyday society. So agoraphobia and panic disorder not only affect individuals on a personal level, but it has a broader societal implication. In today's fast-paced and demanding world, these conditions can hinder individuals from fully participating in social, educational, and professional activities. I'm skipping down to some of the methods for improvement. These are just some ideas that I had. Raising awareness. By spreading awareness about agoraphobia and panic disorder, we can reduce stigma and promote understanding. We can share information on social media, engage with discussions, and organize events to educate others about these conditions. Support with mental health initiatives. It would be a great idea to advocate for mental health initiatives in your community, in your workplace, and educational institutions. Me being a local resident to the town of Newburgh, I've done a lot of I have a lot of close friends that actually are involved with the politics in the city of McMinnville. And because I do photography on the side, I've been invited to photograph some of the events that go on in McMinnville. And it is awe-inspiring to see so much work and time being invested into community outreach programs or booths at the local farmers market that just talk about this kind of thing and provide helpful resources and material for people that suffer or people that don't know if they have never been diagnosed or don't even know if they have this condition. It's it's awesome to see the amount of community and engagement. And so signing up to see how you can help with that, that's a great way to help increase awareness in your own specific community. But going forward, fostering a supportive environment, it's like regardless of where we are, whether work, school, or just the places that we go for fun, creating a safe and supportive environment for individuals that suffer with this is huge. Not shrinking away in fear if you notice somebody panicking. You are the individual there in the moment. It's important to provide a listening ear to comfort those and to just be courageous. I know it's hard, and we oftentimes are frozen by and not knowing what to do when someone next to us might be having a panic attack. But it's all about just offering a listening ear and trying to engage in conversation and help doing whatever you can to aid that person with changing location, changing environment, helping them escape whatever it is that they're fearing in the moment. But yeah, I'm digressing again. Back to my list: encouraging the treatment and seeking of help. If you or someone you know is experiencing symptoms, encourage them to seek professional help. Promote the importance of an early diagnosis and in treatment. Encourage individuals to connect with the mental health professional that can help them meet their needs and move towards a better quality of life. Another thing which is important is practicing self-care and stress management. Taking care of our own mental health is vital. Encouraging others to prioritize self-care practices such as exercise, mindfulness, adequate sleep, healthy coping strategies. These are all really important. But volunteering and support of mental health organizations, I kind of already covered that with my example of the farmers markets and local community engagement programs that really just spend time and money and blood, sweat, and tears to help society kind of improve in this and help to just give the average individual more knowledge in how to help a neighbor, help somebody else out that is next to them. And I think that these aren't relatively difficult steps. Like, these are things that it's just intentionality and it's just mindfulness that is the make it or break it factor. So anyways, that's my presentation on agoraphobia and panic disorder. Hopefully you got something out of it. Here are all of the works cited that I found online and used to build this presentation. But thank you so much for listening. And again, my name is David, and I hope you found something in this presentation that you didn't know before, or could help you just be a better neighbor to somebody else in need without even knowing it. So cheers, you guys.